I was really, really scared of death, scared of anything that I couldn't control. I don't know the route. Like, I'm just going like improvising. It's like I go there knowing that I'm going to improvise. You know what I mean? The climb of the Crystal Tower. It's only like 100 meters high. It's not an easy climb, but it's not hard. It's quite okay. You don't have good rests. You only have like thin ledges every 3 meters where you can put your like tip of your toes.
What? Dude, so mind-blowing that A, you're able to do that. And again, you stay, oh my, it's like, it's so fascinating. You're so wild to me.
Thanks.
Thank you. I can't express that enough. And I think in what you do, it's so clearly, I don't even know the right word to explain it, but you free soloing, and for anyone that doesn't know what that means that may be listening right now, this man that I'm talking to right now is a climber that, the videos you post seem to be primarily climbing skyscrapers without safety harnesses or anything to protect you from your falling. And there's a lot of places I want to go with that. And the first question is why? What are you doing?
Well, your first question, first of all, thanks for inviting me to your podcast. It's pretty cool. And to answer your questions, this question is probably the hardest question I can think of because the why is really complicated. So I think there are multiple whys, and the first of all would be like who I am. And to answer that, I grew up as a kid. I was really, really scared of death and scared of anything that I couldn't control. Any situation that I can't control, I was really scared of. And I remember as a kid, I was like in my parents' car, really afraid of us having like a car accident, a car crash. That was my main fear. I was scared of having somebody of my family dying of like cancer, something like that, which never happened. So it's really ironic because I was always scared of everything, but it didn't happen. But I was scared of not having a grasp on it. You know what I mean? So that was like who I was when I was a kid. And when I grew up, I was more and more into climbing. And I watched the Mission Impossible 2 introduction, and it really I was fascinated about how this dude could climb without a rope. Of course, it was fake, but I didn't know it was fake at the time. I was a dumb 8 years old kid. I was just fascinated. I didn't even want to know if it was real or not. I was just fascinated by the idea of putting your life on the line and control everything that you do, keep your mind focused, and actually surviving something. Because the opposite of losing my life or losing a loved one's life in something I can't control would be risking your life on purpose, but in full, while having your mind fully dedicated to it. What you do, and you put yourself at risks, but everything is controlled and you're gonna survive because you know what you do. And that was something that I was really fascinated by this when I was a kid. But of course, I was also, not mature enough to realize that. So I was just fascinated and I didn't know why. And now I know why I was fascinated. But when I was a kid, of course, I just wanted to be Tom Cruise and stuff like that. And when I realized who Alain Robert was, the French Spider-Man, who also climbs skyscrapers for 30 years now, then I was even more shocked because I knew this was possible. This was possible in real life, and it could be a career. So from my 10 years old or 8 years old, this is what I wanted to do, and I knew this is what I wanted to do.
I mean, that makes sense in regards to the lack of control. Because a lot of people, death anxiety, which is why I was interested in talking to you, is you're conquering that fear in such an extreme manner. You know what I mean? That makes sense to me as to the best way to control, I guess, death is to face it and survive.
Yes.
That logically makes sense.
Yeah.
But how is that? How has that played a role in your death anxiety? Have you found relief from it, or is it at this point it's just an adrenaline rush?
So I think, good question, actually. I think it helped me in a way, and it didn't, in another way, because I still fear of the situation. I still fear losing my life over situations that I can't control, like being in a car, etc. But it puts everything in perspective. When you risk your life daily and you do it in full consciousness, you it really puts everything in perspective. I don't know how to say it, like to explain it really, but it's you understand that you risk your life every day, but sometimes you can control, sometimes you can't. And what matters is to be okay with controlling your life when you can, and accepting like sometimes you can't grasp anything, and you have to still be fully relief, in your head. And that's the base. That's, I think, the basic of stoicism. If I say this correctly, basically like control everything that you can, and about the thing that you absolutely can't control, you're okay with it, and your mind is still at peace. And I think doing this, free soloing skyscrapers like that, made me realize that whatever you do, there's some things that you absolutely can't control that will always be outside of your reach. And that's okay. That's okay. You have to be at peace with that. And at the same time, always like put your like attention on what you can control, what you can change, and yeah, what you have power over.
So at this point, because it's so obvious, but it's still so wild to me, and I'm sure the average person that maybe is not a professional climber like you are, literally just one simple slip up, and that's it. So that idea that you're that close to death, like I understand what you're explaining is to relieve the death anxiety, but maybe I'm saying this wrong, but are you more accepting of dying doing what you're doing in the way that you love it, and less accepting of dying any other way? Like, is there some subconscious part of you that is kind of hoping that you go that way and not the other?
To be honest, I don't really see myself going like free soloing, but it's more like I think I put my mind like the other way around. So I accept that there's a chance that I might not survive with what I'm doing, and I accept that this chance is actually like higher than if my hobby was like collecting I don't know, Pokemon cards or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So that's something I accept, and I'm okay with it. But at the same time, I don't prepare to fall. I don't expect myself to fall, because when I go for the goal, I just prepare, and I just go with a fully relieved mind. So I'm stressed before the climb, because when you're down there and you're about to climb, you can't control much. You're in between things. It's chaos in my mind. But once I start climbing, I have full grasp over my life, full. And this is the only time in my life where I can control everything, where my life is 100% mine to hold, on the tip of my hands, literally. So yeah, this feels great when I start climbing. Actually, like every anxiety, every fear just vanished when I start climbing, and this is why like I think free soloing fits me, because I'm a guy that likes to have full grasp over everything when I'm the subject, and when I climb free solo, that's how it is. It's the whole point of free soloing. So yeah, this is why I think it fits me. And sometimes I'm thinking maybe it's the other way around. Maybe I doing free solo, and it's why I like to control everything. But I think deep down, it's this way. This is who I am, and because of who I am, this is what I'm doing.
Amazing.
Same for everyone.
It helps that you're training and then your preparation, and at the same time, you're preparing for something that you can control, and then it's just so interesting when you think about the opposite. Like you focus on so much that you can control. And I know I already asked that question, but it seems like I just always wonder how that ripples down the rest of your life. Because I see the idea of wanting to control something and feel like you're in control, but then does it have any counter effect of going into normal life and realize I don't have control of so many things? Like, does it have the opposite effect because you're so used to trying to have control and then you don't all of a sudden?
Yeah, definitely. So the thing is that I'm a stressed type of guy. I have a lot of anxiety, but I don't think I have anxiety in the same way most people do. And this was way worse when I was a kid, because I think when you're a kid also, all your everything that defines you when you're a kid is like more shown, in yourself. Because when you're an adult, you learn how to control, yourself, how to repress emotions. but when you're a kid, like it's like I don't know. I like to see myself as a kid as a me, but like everything is just more. Oh, we have a French word for this. It says exacerbé, like much more flashy. Like it's shown much more.
Right.
And then nowadays I'm way less anxious in my daily life, but I still like don't like being the one who controls the things. And the thing is that it's shown when I do free solo over important stuff, because this is my life. This is a life or death situation. But it shows like everywhere in my life, for even like small details, like I don't know, like if I'm in a taxi or in a cab, I don't like not knowing that I know exactly where I'm going. When I'm in a bus and the bus stops, I hate like it stops and I don't control. I can't make it moving forward. It's just weird things like that. So yeah, it definitely have like a ripple effect, but it shows like on such small details of life that it's I really have to focus to see them. But yeah, now that I'm 23, I know myself more, and more every year, and I see that this is the type of guy that I am. I'm like a control freak, and it shows the most when I'm doing free solo.
That's beautiful, man. I mean, it's remarkable what you do and how insightful you are too. You seem to be very extremely aware, and what you mentioned earlier, excuse me, about you had these fears and anxieties as a child. I'm curious to see, have you unraveled that even more? Like I know you said you had the fear of the car accidents and going this way or that way with you or your family, but I feel like especially as a child, it doesn't just come from nowhere. You know what I mean? So was there a specific event in your childhood that caused that you can recollect, or you still haven't really even thought about that? It was just a random thought?
I honestly, I don't think so. I don't. Maybe there's some stuff in my childhood that I forgot, like traumatic events, something like that. But
Mm.
I honestly, I don't think it's the case. I think I was like born this way, in a way. Yeah, well, I think I was born this way, and this is just my like character.
Yeah.
If that means anything in English, I'm not sure, but this is like, yeah, this is my personality. Exactly. That this is my personality, I think. So yeah, I would have to say no to these questions, because I don't remember any traumatic events that would lead me to be like a control freak like that, and to be scared of death. But again, I fear death only when I can't see it moving forward towards me. But when I can see death in the eye, when I can stare at like death, then I'm okay. I feel good because I know where it is.
That makes sense, I guess, especially in the idea of control. If you know where, I think that kind of blends with a lot of the fears of death. From my understanding, from the people I've spoke to, I think it comes from just a lack of knowing and a lack of
Yeah, lack
control.
of
So
knowing.
even though you're facing it in the most intense way, I mean, obviously there's other things that people do that you're facing death, but I mean, there's very few other ideas I can come up with of how people are facing death more directly than you. So I guess when it's right in front of you, that gives you some kind of idea. It's like, oh, it's right there. I know where it is, and I know where to go around it, as opposed to like, oh, I don't know where it is and where it's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. When you like, death is scary only if you don't know when it's coming, where it's coming, and like how it's gonna come. You know what I mean? So, and this is the kind of thing that you have to accept in your daily life, as a part of stoicism. But when you when you're doing free solo, you're just staring at death. You're just like staring and waving, like you're just so close to dying that it forces you to accept that it's there, and now you have to be at a peaceful state of mind to keep going.
Hmm.
And this kind of peaceful state of mind to keep going, for me, it's not possible if I'm not aware of what is going on.
So is there a practice that you have to get into that mental space in regards to whether it's preparation or when you're in the middle of free soloing? Is there any kind of mental practice that you have? Because I wonder, I'm just trying to find the angle of how people can relate to relieving death anxiety with the lessons that you've learned and the experiences that you've had that can be applied to someone who doesn't want to climb a 122-meter skyscraper.
So my best for somebody who isn't like putting their life on the line, I would say stoicism. Of course, the lessons that you will learn from this kind of thinking is to like accept that there's a lot of things you can't control, and it learns how to control the things that you actually can. And I think the goal is to be in a peaceful state of mind for as long as possible. This is the state of mind that will allow you to create things that to work. So yeah, that would be my best solution, and this is what I'm trying to do as well, because free soloing is something I can do because of my personality, but I have a lot of flaws, because of this anxiety. So stoicism is definitely helping me with this. It's like just half of me that is stoic, and the other half that free solo skyscraper.
So you're like two personalities.
Yeah, but I think like there's one thing that it's one thing to face death and being aware of what you're doing, knowing what you're doing, controlling everything. It's another one to face death while absolutely not being aware of if you'll survive or not. Like there's survival stories of people. Like I've heard survival stories of a guy that survived in underwater tube filled with petrol. Filled with like oil.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a chilling story. It's horrifying, and it's just the things these people have thoughts, when they were really close to dying and they actually thought it was over for them. It's just like we can't even imagine. I can't imagine. I face death on a regular basis, but I don't face it this way. Like, when I face death, I know I'm gonna make it. And more important than knowing that I'm gonna make it, I know what I have to do to make it, to survive. And even if you're in a like life or death situation and you're not sure you're gonna make it, because every time I climb, I'm not sure 100% I'm gonna make it, of course. But the big difference is that I know what I have to do to actually survive. Like I know what I should do, what I should think, and this is how I survive. But people who face death on those survival stories and they don't know if you're gonna make it or not, they don't know what to do. I think this is the most chilling stories I can hear of. I can think of. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, you kind of know what's around the corner, as opposed to these people that are literally facing a situation they didn't put themselves into, perhaps, and you have to improvise.
I think like even like if I have to climb something on site, free solo on site, so meaning I climb a route and I don't know the route. Like I'm just going like improvising, but it's like I go there knowing that I'm gonna improvise. You know what I mean? It might look like something really small, but it's a big difference to like being aware that you're risking your life and just have an accident like that.
Yeah, it's just so wild. Like it makes sense to me what you've said and what you're saying in regards to like the preparation, your physical strength, and you can get to a point where you're so confident in yourself. But at the same time, there's literally no room for error. So you literally pretty much have to be perfect. So how do you remain so calm? Is the idea of being calm in your preparation?
I think the idea of having no room for error is it's actually like it relieves me. You know what I mean? Because
no, I don't know what you mean. That's
well, because at least I know it's this way. I know it's not gonna be like it's as long as I know what troubles I am in.
Yep.
If I'm trained for going out of this trouble, I will get out of this trouble.
Right.
It's again, it's all about being aware of what you're doing, and having like your reason all there. Everything is there, and all you have to do is do the things that you train for, that you train in order to survive, and having like a list of things you have to do, and you just focus on this. It forces your mind to be peaceful, because you like being panicking would be an error,
Right.
And every time I climb, even if I don't know, one day I would be in a really really bad situations, to be honest, I know I will not panic, because I know panicking would not be the answer. And if you face life with a logical, rational mind, then you never panic. And when I mean panic, like you don't lose your reasons. You don't lose your mind because of a situation. Of course, sometimes you have to act quick. You have to do some things, and it might look like panicking, but it's actually like actions to survive. But for sure, like when you when you know what you're facing, it's so you prepare for that. It's better than not preparing. You will never panic. I don't know how to say. Sorry.
No. I think you're making
Yeah,
perfect sense. You actually made me think, because I think there's a lot in there what you just said. In that, again, I love looking at. I feel like when people see what you do, I don't want to generalize, but I feel like it's easy, like, oh, you can't compare what you're doing. But the beauty of what I personally see, whether right or wrong, is I think there's just so many lessons and applicable situations and mentalities and your preparation and your perspectives that can be applied to the normal person. I'm not calling you unnormal, but I think what you're doing is very unorthodox. But I think the idea of what you're just saying, how you're able to stay calm, can be related to other people that find panic in other things in their life. Because how I'm understanding it, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a conscious choice. And I think
yes.
when people think they get, we panic, it is a response with our body. But I think, which seems uncontrollable, but in my head, I think it starts with how you're looking at it and whether you're accepting it or how you're perceiving it logically, this or that. So I'm just trying to like find this step-by-step basis about people that may find themselves in panic states, how they can calm themselves down. And from what I heard from you, it's that logical approach of just seeing what it is, this is what it is, and understanding that panic is not going to do anything for me. So with that process, you're just able to maintain a steady heartbeat.
Yeah, exactly. That you're telling it way better than I am.
Well, no, I mean, the only reason I was able to tell like that is because of how you explain it to me. You explain it beautifully, so don't even knock yourself.
By the way, sorry, English isn't my first language. I'm French,
Dude.
but,
I only speak English, and my English is trash. So you're way ahead of me. So please, you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you. So yeah, I mean, like, I have to admit that I would not be able to tell you like exactly like if it's a choice or if it's just who I am. But
right,
if you go through life with a logical mind, then you always think of solutions instead of being like
pessimistic
being controlled
and
by your
negative.
emotions. It's like logic versus emotions. And the more you go through life with logic, the more you're able to get out of complicated situations.
It's hard sometimes. I think that makes sense to me because I feel like I'm a logical person, but I have to admit sometimes my emotions get the best of me, and the emotions can seem to override the logical aspect of how to get out of situations. But I do like that idea. That does make sense. When you do try to think a little logically, whatever logic is to you, it does give you more of a solution-based ideology as opposed to just responding and reacting by your emotions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really hard, but and there's a thin line between reacting according to your logic and reacting according to your emotions. For example, if one day I'm in big troubles and I'm climbing, I have to quickly act. And if I don't know, have problem, like I'm gonna fall or something, I have to be really quick in my mind. But being really quick doesn't mean being really stupid and illogical and emotional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a thin line that you have to find and just stay in the line. You know what I mean?
Are there
it's tricky, but to be honest, it's really hard because I couldn't explain if it's how I choose to be or if it's just who I am.
I mean, that's the age-old question of nature versus nurture. I always wonder about that too, especially guys that that put themselves in situations like you do that becomes. It seems on the surface terrifying, but also healing, and you're being who you are, so it's beautiful at the same way. Are there any, because I'm alluding to what you just said about when you're in certain situations, have there been any specific climbing situations that you can think of that have been the most intense, scary moments that you've experienced?
Yeah, so for now, to be honest, I'm really young, and I think I can do much better than what I've been doing for the past 3 years, 2 or 3 years. So yeah, I'm quite young actually. I've been doing climbing for I've been a climber for I've been a climber for 14 years. Mm-hmm. So I had good experience in climbing, but I've been doing urban climbing. So yeah, urban free solos for only 2.5 years, like 3 years, something like that. So it's really recent actually. So I'm kind of still a newbie, and I think I can do much better. But for now, I've been in a few situations that were kind of tricky. I'm going to take two really different examples, actually, two radically different examples.
Love
The
it.
first one would be the climb of the Crystal Tower. So the Crystal Tower is a skyscraper that is not that high. It's only like 100 meters high. So it's not like a few hundreds. It's only 100 meter high, and it's not an easy climb, but it's not hard. It's quite okay. The thing is that you don't have good rests. You only have like thin ledges every 3 meters where you can put your like tip of your toes. And when I mean the tip of my toes, I really mean the tip of my toes. It's not an expression. Like I can't climb with climbing shoes because I can't fit my shoes inside the sections. So I had to climb barefoot. So I could stock like tip of my toes inside of the ledges. And this was the tricky part of the climb, but it's overall like the climb is not that hard. It's not that pumpy. It's you have still places where you can like let go one hand, let go other hand, and keep going. So it's quite okay. But the last section is totally different. So to exit the roof, it's not just like you climb, and then you reach the roof. It's
Right.
you climb, then there's a section like that where there's no holes, and then there's the roof.
So it's like a
So
45-degree overhang almost, right?
exactly 45 degrees. Well, not overhang, but like that.
Right. Okay.
So like, it's not like this. It's like that.
I saw that video. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like it comes out. It
And then
comes
it's the
out
roof.
more. Yeah. I don't know how.
Yeah.
What, dude? It's so mind blowing that you're able to do that, and again, you stay. Oh my! It's like it's so fascinating. You're so wild to
Oh,
me.
thanks. Well, I to be honest, that was kind of scary, but it was only scary before the climb because I was thinking. So okay, so from the look of how it is up there, there are like three options. Maybe I can pass the roof like the first way, or the second way, or the third way. But if I can't pass like those three techniques, there's a chance that I might be stuck on a small ledges, being really tired, and with the possibility of not going down. So I was thinking, this is going to be hard. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to have to improvise. So I went there and improvised, and it went well. But the thing is that it's improvised, but I still knew that I will have to improvise. And the fact that I knew I will have to improvise made everything much better. I just went into like comfortable and just relaxed mode for the whole climb. And when I reached the spot, I was in hyper focus mode, like I've never been focused like that, like. And I just did everything, the first technique that I thought in my head, and it went really well, and I made it to the top, and it was a really really like nice moment. I will always remember not the moment where I actually made the movements, because this I forgot, but
Right.
just after, I was like shocked that I made it. I was shocked.
Yeah.
So it was a really really great moment, and this is an example of a moment where I could have panicked. It was tricky, but the logical always takes over the emotional, and this is how you survive. And I think this is a good lesson that could be applied in almost all the time in life, that when you don't let your emotions get the better of you, you will always get the better out of a situation. You will always like get the best out of anything. Like,
Right.
when you keep like this rational, logical mind, you will always get better. And this is, I think, what the Stoicism called the rational man. And this is what I definitely aim to be when I free solo, of course, but also in everyday life. And if I gotta be honest with you, it's easier to be this rational man when I free solo than in my everyday life. And nowadays, this is why I'm reading Stoicism books, because I'm now with the free solo part, I'm good, but in my everyday life, I struggle to be like this. I struggle a lot to be like this because I'm really stressed. But yeah, when I free solo, it's perfect. Everything always comes together, and I'm just focused and rational, which is not always the case in my daily life. So yeah.
It's so fascinating to me. It's like it's the contradiction of the spectrum that in such an intense situation. Because again, from my lack of experience in what you're doing, you see someone like you putting yourself in such a quote unquote stressful situation, even though you're not stressed out in those situations. You think being so close would make you more nervous, and then, oh, I can face this. Therefore, there's nothing in life that would rattle me. But it seems to be the opposite with you, and the everyday life and not having the control tends to stress you out. But then at the same time, when you started saying you knew you were going to have to improvise in that situation, that you still felt calm. So my thought to you is what about approaching, this is an idea that you can just throw away, but do you take that similar approach to life? So I feel like life you can't predict, right? Like I think John Lennon said, life is what happens to you when you're making other plans. So life just happens to you where you're forced to improvise, right? I feel like in life we have these plans, but when the shit hits the fan, we're forced to improvise. So have you ever thought, is there a similar approach with you hitting that 45-degree angle at the Crystal Tower, right? Crystal Tower?
Yeah, Crystal Tower, yeah.
Is it facing life with that same approach? Like, you ever thought about looking at life like that 45-degree angle at Crystal Tower? Like, I know I'm going to have to improvise, and then you have to have faith in yourself that you're going to figure it out.
I think so. The best way to, I think this is, you just told everything. Yeah, the best way to approach life is with this mentality. But if I gotta be honest with you, I still have a lot of work to do on myself on this part of this part of life. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's okay, man. You're 23 years old.
Yeah.
I got 11 years on you, and I'm already like nervous about what's going to happen after this. So you're I think it's honestly it's impressive completely outside of your free soloing. You know, you're granted I trust and believe in you that you're going to work out whatever you need to work out, but you're very aware at how you feel and this or that. So this isn't advice, but I think you should give yourself a little grace and be a little easier on yourself, because I think
thank you.
You know you're at 23 years old. You've already had these experiences that you're already comparing to your life. You're not just doing this and just, I'm just doing this to get 1 million likes on Instagram. You're doing this for a real purpose. Some people may look at you like, what the heck is this guy doing? But that's why I love hearing the real backstory, because there's always a reason behind why people do things.
It's really funny, because a lot of people they think that I'm doing this for Instagram likes, and I keep answering them, hey, if I was doing this if my goal in life would be Instagram likes, believe me, free solo isn't what I would be doing. Yeah, believe me, like it's always people say this, and I'm thinking like, what? Like, what I'm doing is probably like dumbest thing to do if you want to get Instagram likes. So Instagram likes. So yeah.
Yeah,
there's a million things you can do that is way less risky than this, and that would get way more likes and views on Instagram. So yeah, an advice for everyone that listens: if you want to get Instagram likes, don't do what I'm doing.
Yeah, no. That was my first thought. I was gonna let's do this podcast while I'm behind you climbing a 100-meter building. That'll get me 1 million likes on this podcast. That's ridiculous. But listen, man, I know I want to be respectful for your time. I know we're getting close to you getting out of here. But before you get out of here, is there anything that if you want to get anything off your chest or anything that you haven't said that you feel like saying, feel free, or you can just give us your information and I'll plug it in the bottom of this episode for people. You got it, guys. For anyone that's not watching, that doesn't know him, please check him out, because these videos they're so intense. They're so intense, and I think it's really important to now watch his videos with the perspective you just gave us. I like putting those two things together, because like you said, on the surface level, people create their stories as to why you're doing this. This is the meaning that we're writing your own, people on the internet write your own stories sometimes. So it's important. Crazy. It's important to me for people to hear your voice. And granted, it was only 35 minutes and I'm sure there's plenty more. But I'm happy to take this moment with you and for people to understand the why behind what you're doing. It's really important.
Cool. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for being so respectful, of me and my work. It's really nice. And I told you that I would give you 2 examples that were really different. So I think I have to tell you the other ones.
Yes, please. Let's go.
The other example was when I was climbing the Montparnasse Tower, and around 20 or 30 meters. I don't remember exactly, and also I don't know exactly because I was only looking down, but I don't know exactly like how high I was. But I know I was at a height that would be little. Like if I fell, I would be dead, And I realized that my chalk bag was upside down. So I had to this is what completely not improvised, because if for something to be improvised, it needs to be that you know that you have to improvise. You know what I mean? Like you still plan on doing something and you plan on improvising. But this just happened. You know, my truck bag was upside down, and I had to like find a good position to untie the knot of my truck bag, put my hands behind my back, like put it in the correct position, and do my knot again, and just keep climbing. And the funny thing about this is that I completely forgot this happened after the climb, and I realized this happened like a year after, when I was looking at the videos on my computer, and I was like, wow, this happened. Like I completely forgot it happened, because it happened so well. You know, it's just like, oh, my truck bag is upside down. Okay, boom, boom, boom. I just gotta untie the knot, up, find a good position, both hands behind my back, put it in the correct position, do the knot again, and keep going. And the thing is that, yes, maybe I could have died on that moment, but what does it change? If I hadn't acted, I would have died anyway. So like, this is where the rational mind comes into play. Like when you have no options but to actually do the correct things in order to survive, usually you will do the correct things, you know, like you will not let your emotions control you. And when I say this, of course, I speak only for myself. I know this is how I work, but maybe other people work differently. But this is definitely what keeps me alive.
That's brilliant. And just to clarify that, so when you were fixing your bag, you literally were you were essentially just leverage your toes into the building, so you're not even using your arms to hold on.
Yeah, so it's a building that it's not hard, but it's not really easy either, because it's quite long. It's more than 200 meters. So this is like one of the tallest skyscrapers in France. And the thing is that you can let go both hands. If you're really, really careful, you can. But you have to be really careful, because usually when I've climbed this skyscraper 3 times. And the thing is that each time I never let go both hands, because it's not necessary. The skyscraper is made so that you can put your heel on the side of the skyscraper, and just with your heel, like in your shoulder, you can lock yourself in and let go 2 hands. But I never do that. Usually what I do is that I do this with my heel and my shoulder, and I keep one hand on the skyscraper, and I relax my other hand, and the hand that is on the skyscraper is also quite relaxed, but I still like grip on the holds. And for this occasion, I really had to have trust in me, like let go both hands and put both hands behind my back and just get everything correctly. And it's not, I mean, it's not a big thing, like, again, because it's not a hard thing to do. You just have to do it correctly, and you have to be okay with the pressure and handling the pressure with a rational mind. This is the most important thing I could. This is the only thing, I'm sure, if I had to give an advice to anyone, it's the only thing that I would give, and I would be 100% sure of myself. It's to deal with life with a rational mind.
I love that. And again, I know nothing about climbing, but I do feel like the physical part obviously is a challenge, but that comes with preparation. And there's probably a bunch of other climbers that can do physically what you're doing, but the wild part is doing it and the mental aspect that comes with it. That's the mind-blowing part. I do want to ask you one more question. I know we've alluded to the death anxiety that you have in regards to not having control, but what about just death in general? Are you scared of dying?
Oh, yeah. I'm scared of dying every day, actually. The only day where I'm not scared of dying is when I do a free solo.
That's so wild. That's so fat. I mean, bless you, dude. Thank you. It sounds so contradicting, but it makes so much sense at the same time that you're able to. You're literally is the quintessential example of facing your fear.
Wow, thank you very much. It means a lot.
No, dude, come on. I mean, I'm no one. Come on. But I appreciate you again, dude, being on here. And for anyone that is listening, whether you're watching on YouTube, Spotify, I don't know how you're doing it. I'll put all his links in the bottom of the show notes. And my man, thank you so much for being on here. It was a true honor, and I appreciate all your words.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being respectful, and thank you for the invitation on your podcast.
Of course, man.
Thank you very much.
And thank you guys, everyone, for Dead Talks, for tuning in. You again, watch these videos. They're absolutely amazing. So until next time, y'all, we'll see you later. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.